Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, depending on from where you are joining us today for this session, FR in Focus webinar, and that is the support for June 2020 2025 exams. My name is Richa, and I work as Education Support Manager at ACCA. So, our session, Manage Your Approach and Master Your Exam Strategy, it is designed to help you with the upcoming exam preparation. And today, Alina Karim has joined us to impart the FR knowledge. During the session, as Alina will showcase how to present exam answers effectively for higher marks through some examples. She will also share her insights on common student challenges and will be sharing few important tips as well and giving answers to questions which are frequently asked by the students. We will also be covering live Q&A as well towards the end. So, as the title of this session suggests, it is an opportunity to learn the exam approach and design your strategy in a way that it maximizes your preparation for June 2025 exams. Before I hand over to Alina, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items very quickly. You will find a few buttons on your screen, which there is a help icon which provides resource and information to help you resolve any technical issue which you might experience during this webinar. Then there are icons for both slides and media player. You will need to see both of these during the session, so make sure you have selected them. There is an attendee chat function, so you can engage with fellow webinar attendees as well, and you can also let us know from where you are joining us today. But you should not be sharing too much of your personal details in the chat. There is a resource list icon as well. If you click on that, you will be able to access resources which are very much relevant to today's webinar, and that include direct links as well. So you can rearrange your screen to suit you and resize the videos if you need to. And if at any point you cannot hear what we are saying or you cannot see any visuals, please do refresh your browser. Registering for the session means you will be sent an email tomorrow with details of how you can listen to it again. So don't worry if you miss something or do you have any technical issue, you will be able to access the recording. So very quickly, I am going to hand over to Alina and we'll be back with you towards the end of the session. In the meantime, if you want to ask ACCA or Alina any question, please do post them in Q&A box and be mindful that we will be able to pick the questions which are put in Q&A box only. And please also note that we cannot guarantee responding to each and everyone directly, either verbally or via web chat. But we hope that whatever questions we pick, we share, will be helpful to everyone. So handing over to you, Alina.
Thank you so much, Richa. A very warm welcome to all of you who have joined today from different parts of the world. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are joining from. Thank you so much for coming in today. In the today's session, we have a 1 hour, very, you can say, power-packed session in which I'm going to cover main exam techniques for attempting your exam to score maximum marks. And as Richa mentioned, in the end also, we will have a Q&A. I can see some questions coming in already. Some of these are already going to be covered through the presentation, and whatever is left behind, we can cover it in the end. So without any further ado, let's start with the presentation today. So here we are with the financial reporting exam for June 2025 exam attempt. It is now less than 1 month in the exam. So what should be your focus at the moment? That is, the most important answer to this question is practice. But how to practice to gain maximum marks, that is what we are going to cover today. So over here, that's a small introduction of myself. Sorry, a slightly older picture. I didn't have the latest one, I'll be honest. So please ignore that. But I'm Alina Karim. I have done ACCA myself. So I have walked the same path that you are walking at. I am an FR expert tutor for ACCA, and I've been teaching and training these subjects for over 15 years now. I am an international IFRS trainer and have conducted in-person sessions also for ACCA in terms of study schools and train the trainers. Currently, I am teaching at Scanzi campus, which is a platinum approved learning partner of ACCA. Now, coming to the main agenda, this was just a short introduction so that you should know who I am. We are going to talk about how you should present your answers for effective working and to gain maximum marks, to be precise, and the common student challenges. Now, presenting the answers effectively, it is something very important. Why? Because in your exam, you have limited time. You have a limited time to read the question, make the format of the answer, put in the answers, and complete the question. Now, there is a stepwise strategy that you can follow for every question to make sure that you are doing all of this in the required time, because it is very important to completely attempt your paper and attempt your paper in a way that you are going to gain maximum marks. Um, all of these techniques and the resources that I'm going to discuss, they have been made available by ACCA. So the first of all, have the trust in your examiner and in your marker that ACCA wants you to pass. Okay, they have given every possible support that is required, and they have told you exactly what can be tested. Only the questions are going to be unknown in your exam. So you already have the ACCA syllabus, you already know the platform, what is this going to look like, what is going to be your exam structure, how the questions can be tested, what are the common errors that the students make. So all of this has been told in advance. Now it is on you to make maximum use of all of these resources to prepare properly. I am going to guide you with respect to the question techniques, and I have divided this into chunks with respect to the sections that come up in our exam also. So, first of all, I'm going to discuss the section A and B of the exam, which are OTs and OT case questions. Now, in terms of OTs, we have 15 OTs of 2 marks each that are there. Now, we have to be careful that when we talk about OTs and OT cases, they are all 2 mark questions. In most of them, there is only one exception. In most of them, there is no partial mark available because this is auto marking. There is no subjectivity involved. So either you are giving the right answer or you are giving the wrong answer. There is no midway to it. And it is marked by the computer. So this is something in which you have to give the answer with great precision. Now, the first thing in this case is that you should know what type of questions can come up in your exam. So you can have MCQs, you can have multiple response questions in MCQs. You have to pick one option out of four in the multiple response questions. You have to choose multiple options, which is always an even number as per ACCA rules. And the examiner will tell you exactly the number of answers now you are going to give. In this case, the first technique that I would like to highlight is that if the question is asking you to choose which two of the following are correct answers, if you don't choose both the correct options, or if you click only one answer, there is going to be no mark for that answer. So be careful while reading the question also that what has been asked, you should answer that. Which comes to the next part, which says read the requirement very carefully. Another aspect to this is that read very carefully what has exactly been asked, because with the same kind of question background, multiple things can be asked in the requirement. Now, something very latest that the examiner has started doing is that they simply say that what is going to be the charge to statement of profit or loss in this regard. Now, the charge to statement of profit or loss, if I'm dealing with a question in which there is depreciation and then there is impairment, it means that I have to add both. If the same asset had decommissioning provision and there is an unwinding and there is finance cost, I have to add all three. So the examiner confuses you just by saying what is the charge to P&L, because there are two things being gauged over here. Number one, do you know that if an asset is there and it is experiencing unwinding on provision, depreciation, and impairment, all three need to go to P&L, and then the figures that you have to calculate. So prepare very carefully, and the important thing is that you should first prepare the syllabus properly. You should prepare the content of standards very properly, because only then you can apply it to the exams properly. Then the exam technique is going to work. Be very careful about time management. You have 1.8 marks 1.8 minutes per mark available in the exam, which means that you have, if you talk about the first section, that is 30 minutes, so time is available accordingly. My recommendation in this regard is that if you prepare OTs and OT cases in advance properly, that you spend 45 minutes in section A, 45 minutes in section B, because these are the ones in which you have been given the answer options. When you come to section C, that is where you have to type up the format, and that at times takes slightly more time. But it depends on your preparation. In while you're sitting at home preparing for your exam, make sure you do time bound practice so that you are used to it when you go in the exam. And always do it in slightly lesser time, because under the exam pressure it automatically takes more time. Like, there is a joke that in my exam I would, even do on a calculator 2 plus 2 to make sure it is 4. So that is something that can only happen in exam pressure. Otherwise there's no such issue. Now, when you're talking about fill in the blanks, now in case of OT cases, you have one case, you have 5 questions associated with it. So 10 marks for each case, and there are 3 such cases available. Now, in this also, the question types are the same. One tricky type of OT that comes up in both OTs and OT cases is fill in the blanks. You have to be very careful what can be written in fill in the blanks, because unfortunately, we have seen through the examiner report that in the past, students have calculated correct answer, but they input it in the blank in such a way that the computer software did not recognize it. So, what are the items that you can write in fill in the blanks? Number one, no alphabets, no A, B, C, D. Only numbers are going to be written in the blanks. Okay, so 52 point, 5438. So that is going to be written. So if there is a decimal point that you have to follow, rounding is always mentioned in your question, so you don't need to worry about that. If there is a negative balance, never put brackets. That is not recognized by the exam software. Put the minus sign so that it is recognized, although mostly ACCA questions are designed in a way that you don't need to put that in. Like, if there is a negative bank balance, they would say, okay, what is the balance of bank overdraft? Okay, now see the answer denomination. See, note this, that in your fill in the blank, is there outside that written million, um, dollar, thousands? So whatever the denomination is, answer it accordingly. I will show you this question just in the latest examiner report. The examiner said students made this mistake again. The answer was 42,000 outside the box. 1,000 was already written. Students had to just input 42, and many students input 42,000, the whole figure. So you should not lose marks just because you are not reading the question or the answer space clearly. And very importantly, do not put in the currency sign. You will never be required to put in a dollar sign. Now, with respect to the preparation, at times students worry that how are we going to practice OTs? There is a lot of material available. So in case of OTs, you can go to the ACCA Study Hub. There is over 450, rather I would say over 500 OTs are available, because there are topic-wise quizzes and there is a practice tab. So I have taken this image from the practice tab, and here, overall practice of the exam questions, there are over 450 questions. Other than that, in your examiner reports, you can see actual past exam questions. So 4 OTs and 1 OT case is written in every examiner report, so you can experience the exact exam questions. Now, don't worry that you don't have enough material on OTs. You do all of this and you are more than sufficiently prepared for the exam. This was an example that I have picked up from the examiner reports, the latest one. So your exams, how they are going to look like quickly, please see the technique that you need to follow for effective exam practices. That when you start the question, just read the first line, not the entire question part. Read the first line only to identify what the question is probably dealing with. Is it consolidation? Is it an asset liability related? And then skip the whole part, come to the requirement. Read the requirement first. What is the profit on disposal? Read this and then go back and read the remaining question. In this way, while you are reading the text of the question, you will be very focused on what the requirement is, and that saves you time. And on the other side is the example of the question that I was telling you about, fill in the blanks. You can please read the examiner report after we end the session to see these questions and identify all the techniques that the examiner has discussed. Now, coming to the CR questions, this was all with section A and B. I have taken up a little more time for section C because we have three different types of questions over there. So, in the section C, first of all, be aware what can be tested. There are two questions which are of 20 marks each. One of these can either be a single company account and or it can be a consolidated financial statement. So first question in the section C, it can be question number any question 31, 32, it can be any question. One of the questions is going to be a single, either a single company account or a consolidated financial statement. And the second question, so compulsory question, is going to be on analysis and interpretation of financial statements. Now, in the single company accounts, very clearly, it can either be a statement of profit or loss, statement of financial position, statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. There can be an extract of statement of cash flows also. It is tested in a way that you can either get a trial balance or a draft statement, and there are some adjustments. So, this is exactly what your question is going to look like. No surprises there. There are no surprises in the exam. Within the consolidated financial statements, you can get statement of profit or loss and statement of financial position. Complete statement of changes in equity is not required in group, just with respect to retained earnings if any small part is asked. So statement of changes in equity and statement of cash flows, they are not testable from consolidation point of view in the FR exam. Then you have the adjustments, you have to do the adjustments. So you have parent company accounts, you have subsidiary company accounts, and there are adjustments. This is what always your consolidation question is going to look like. So have confidence and prepare so that these things which we already know are not a challenge for you in the exam. And then the last question, which is a compulsory question, is going to be on analysis and interpretation. Here you can get either, you're going to get 2 years or two companies data because you have to do a comparison. So a comparison, you need two final accounts, two financial statements. So you may either be required a comparison of a single company with another single company, which is its own past performance or a competitor or industry average, or it can be a single company account comparison with a group account. It can happen both ways. In the previous year, it was individual company accounts. In the current year, the company acquired a subsidiary. So previous year, individual company accounts, this year, group accounts. Or in the previous year, we had a subsidiary. In the current year, we have disposed of that subsidiary. So that is something which can come up. So that comparison is there, or you can get a question in which both year financial statements are consolidated financial statements. So group versus group. And then there are adjustments given, and in those adjustments you have all the intra-group balances, unrealized profit, fair value adjustment, any intra-group dividend, all of that is given. So these are the adjustments that come up. And in this case also, in adjustments, when we talk about interpretation, very importantly, you have one-off items. So very frequently, we are going to discuss this shortly, that we have certain one-off items, or there is some kind of a twist. The company is performing well, they're suddenly facing some issue, all of that. And that is what your uh, that's going to be the driving force for your answer. So this is what your questions are going to look like. Let's start off with how you should handle the single company accounts to answer effectively and gain maximum marks. So I've created 4 steps for all 3 types of the questions for you to see. Now, in case of single company accounts, the first thing is that you have to make the pro forma of the financial statements and the workings. Now you have the question, we just discussed what your question is going to look like. So trial balance or draft financial statement. And so from that, and you have adjustments. Now read the question carefully, in the sense that start reading the question, see the trial balance or the draft statement points, just skim through the adjustments in the very beginning. Okay, so just get an idea that, okay, the first point is related to property, it's having revaluation, depreciation is there, inventories are given, convertible loan notes are given, leases are given, and taxes given. So I just skim through the question to see what I need to include in my pro forma. This is something that takes time, but remember, ACCA exam, it has already been vetted to make sure that you can do it easily in the time given. So time is allocated for the making of pro forma also. The question is made in a way that, okay, so the facility that you can use is that you can pick up figures from the question, you can put them in the answer, but the pro forma you should know how you are going to make. So do a lot of practice of making the pro forma while you're doing the practice at home, and please use ACCA practice platform for it, because the functionalities of Excel, they are different from functionalities of the ACCA practice platform. So the spreadsheet one, like, it doesn't have an auto sum formula available that you can just click. You cannot add a row, you cannot delete a row. So all of that. So you need to practice within the platform and make sure that you are so comfortable with it that when the exam comes, this should not be a challenge for you that, oh, I have to make format and I have to type it up. Be very comfortable with that, and also make workings, leave spaces in between and make workings. So this is the step number one where you are going to create the performer. Then the second step in this regard is that you have to insert the balances from the trial balance into the pro forma working. And in this, I'm going to discuss in detail shortly how this is going to happen. Then part number three is, so you first made the pro forma, then you picked up the balance from the trial balance and the straight figures from the adjustments and put them in the working. Then you deal with the additional information. So the additional points that have been given, you start making those adjustments, and you can do it in any sequence that you are comfortable with. They are not interdependent, except when the last one is maybe related to deferred tax and it says that there is a revaluation happening in point number one. So this is related to it. Otherwise, all the points are independent. So whatever you are comfortable with, you can go ahead with that first, and then you need to close off the workings and make the pro forma of the financial statements. Now, a little bit more detail into all of this, because this is what I have seen students struggle with the most. They have prepared the content and the standards and they're not able to handle the question. So in the pro forma that you have made, use a stepwise approach. Use the contents of trial balance. Each and every figure in trial balance should be there in your answer, either in the main pro forma or in the workings. As you use a figure, cut it off or highlight it to make sure that you have already used it. At the end of the question, if you haven't used all the figures, it means you are missing out on something. Okay, then scan the additional information to identify all the workings. So you have to make the format. We have discussed this before, that you use the trial balance figures and the additional workings, and make sure you are referring the workings properly. So reference them properly. Better to write a working one, working two in the bracket, and you have to the option of linking these cells in the Excel also. While inserting the balances, just like I discussed, you have made the pro forma, you pick up the figures from the trial balance, put them in the answer, and these are your easy marks. Now, the students always say, okay, the trainers say that you grab the easy marks first. What are the easy marks? The easy marks are the one, if you get the time in the end, I will show you a question also. So, easy marks are the ones in which you pick up the figure straight from the trial balance and you put it in the answer. And then from the adjustments also, you don't even need to add something or multiply something. You pick up the figure from the adjustment and you place it in the answer. And trust me, I will show you the question in which you can grab around 8 to 10 marks just by doing this. So these are your easy marks. Pick them up from the question, put them in the answer. Be careful about debit and credit balances. Something which is debit in trial balance is going to be a debit in your financial statements and workings also. Remember this rule. Cut off all the points, focus on easy marks, grabbing them first. And one last thing about trial balance or the draft statement figures. The draft statement and the trial balance figures, they are going to be used in your answer once. And the adjustments, you have to pass their double entries. So they are going to impact at least two, or more places. So remember this, trial balance figure will never be used twice in your answer. Now, dealing with the additional information, as I said, focus on the easiest one first. I have included some common items of adjustment which come up in our exam. So you should practice these very properly. We have property, plant, and equipment because almost every company has some kind of property or equipment, depreciation, impairment, revaluation, all of these items, inventory, the closing inventory, then provisions very commonly get tested. We have deferred tax and the current tax also. So both types of taxes. Financial instruments are very commonly tested. So financial asset or we get convertible loan notes also. Revenue, because each company is making certain kind of sale, correction of errors like even suspense accounts, and then there are other standards also. So leases get tested, all many other standards get tested, but I just included some examples of very frequently tested areas. When you do your practice, you will see this in your exam also. So the last part is that you have to close off the workings that you have made, and put the balances in the financial statements. Don't worry if your asset and liabilities and equity side is not balances, you balancing, you get marks for individual workings and not the final totals. Okay, so all of these figures up, and here you are with the single company accounts question. Now, this is an example of the latest exam paper. You have the requirements, you have the marks, you solve them accordingly. Now, feedback from examiner. The examiner is repeatedly highlighting that please show your workings. You are adding something, show it. Don't just do it on the calculator and put it in the answer, because in that way, even if one of your figures is correct and only there is one error, the marker will never know. So make sure that you show the relevant working, so that even if there is an error in one of the figures, you get marks for it. Okay, I'll discuss the own figure rule also shortly. Then the second type of question that we come up with is consolidated financial statements. I told you that one question is either going to be a final accounts question or a consolidation question. Now, in case of consolidated financial statements, again, we have to follow a four-step approach. I will repeat over here that any question that you have related to the techniques that I have discussed, please put them in the Q&A section, and I will deal with them at the end. Okay. So in the consolidated financial statements, the step number one is that make the pro forma. Once again, you have to make the pro forma, but the advantage is that you have the pro forma available in the question, current assets, liabilities, equity. But in that, you have to make certain workings for the consolidation purposes also, add them in the main format, open the workings, make the workings, and use the same approach. Read the first point of the question, skim through it in just a cursory view, see the requirements, and make the pro forma. Then come back and read the question in detail. The next one is insert balances from parent and subsidiary company individual financial statements. In the consolidation questions, we have to do a lot of line by line addition. So whether we are dealing with statement of financial position or statement of profit or loss, we have to do line by line addition of items, and that is where you get your easy marks, because because it's a calculation, the examiner has to allocate marks for it, and it is easy because you just have to pick up parent figure and subsidiary figure and add them. The only exception to this is when subsidiary is acquired during the year and you have to apportion it, but then once again you have to just add them on a line by line basis and get marks for it. Then open the format for the workings also. Like some workings are there in every consolidation question. If you're talking about statement of financial position, there is going to be calculation of goodwill, consolidated retained earnings, NCI, and any adjustment which has been given in the question. The step number three is that now you focus on the main adjustments that have been given to you. Some would be available before the individual financial statements, like information at the date of acquisition, what did we pay, what were the different types of consideration, what was the share capital, what was the pre-acquisition retained earnings, or OCI, etc. What was the fair value of NCI? All of that is given normally before the start of the question, at the start, and then afterwards we have other adjustments. adjustments like intra-group balances, additional depreciation, any unwinding or any change in the consideration that has been paid, all of that is then made available. So you have to pass their entries. As I said, you have to know the concepts first, and then you can apply all of these techniques to quickly score maximum marks in the exam. Lastly, you have to close off the workings and complete the consolidated statements. Now, let's see the step by step detail of all of these. Now, when we say set up the pro forma and know what you are expected, now in this case, use the individual financial statements. Now, you have data in the individual financial statements. At times, the examiner combines all the current assets. Uh, at times, they are individually available. So, there would be inventory, trade receivable, a cash balance, all of that. So make your pro forma accordingly. Then make workings of goodwill, CRE, NCI, and profit sharing. Now, this is something which is definitely going to be there in the exam. So make workings of it in advance and use the pro formas that you've studied in your class. You should be very comfortable with them. Go open them, write them down, because the common things that are going to be there in every question, they should be on your fingertips and you should immediately make them in the exam. Now, scan additional information so that you can open the workings accordingly. And please repeatedly saying, please make a reference of your workings. Then the next thing is that you should start inserting balances from the parent company and the subsidiary company accounts. This is where the line by line addition comes in. So you pick up the balances from the question. Again, as you pick up a balance, either strike through it or highlight it. Both options are available in your platform. Each and every balance of your parent and subsidiary individual financial statements is going to be used in the answer. If you haven't used them, it means you're missing out on something. Okay? Now do that and then read the adjustments and start putting in your figures. So, as I said, mark them all, do a line by line addition. Remember always, share capital and share premium is only of parent company. Now, this is also showing your easy marks. You pick up the figure from the parent company, you put it in your consolidated statement, and you get marks for it. So focus on these easy marks that you can pick up. I'm repeating it. Easy marks are the one that you can straightforward pick up from the question and write them in the answer. You get marks for it. Even for line by line addition, just parent company inventory plus subsidiary company inventory, you get zero point 0.5 marks for it. Parent company property plus subsidiary company property, zero point 0.5 marks for it. Parent company cash plus subsidiary company cash, zero point 0.5 marks for it. There are extra marks if there is unrealized profit or any adjustment required for it. These are the ones that are your basic easy marks. And then ultimately, if you are dealing with a P&L question, very frequently the acquisition is done during the year and you have to do apportionment. The examiner says that if you don't do the month apportionment, it is called a fundamental error. A fundamental error is something in which it is the most common reason for students failing at 49, because the scripts that are there in the 47 to 49, the examiner repeatedly sees them to make sure that if there is any mark which can be awarded. But if you make fundamental errors in which sort of like you are ineligible to say that, oh, I have the knowledge of ACCF FR level, then this is something in which you will not be able to pass the exam. So make sure your techniques are proper. And as I said, focus on easy marks first and then move on to the step number 3, which is making your adjustments. Now, in the adjustments, cover everything. Goodwill is always there. Make a working of goodwill, even if later on it turns out to be a bargain purchase gain, that's fine, no issue in that. Fair value adjustments are there in almost every question. They impact the property, plant, and equipment or any other item. If there is a fair value adjustment, then there is additional depreciation. There are intra-group balances. In fair value adjustment, you need to identify whether the fair value adjustment is with the asset or a liability. Remember, increase, decrease in fair value adjustment impacts goodwill differently depending upon whether it is for an asset or a liability. Intra-group adjustments and unrealized profit, again, almost every consolidation question has it. And strange enough, the examiner says that students are unable to correctly calculate gross profit margin and markup. So please make sure you know all these basic techniques. And the next one in this is that you always have retained earnings, so consolidated retained earnings and NCI. Profit attributable to NCI calculation is one of the worst attempted calculations as per the examiner in the consolidated statement of profit or loss. Now, that's a worrisome part because it is going to be there. It is always going to be there because NCI is there in the question. So practice properly so that only the figures are a surprise for you in the exam and nothing else. And lastly, close off your workings and complete the statements. So you finalize all the balances and you place them in the statement again without worrying what are the totals of assets, equity, and liabilities. So my recommendation is that when you're doing practice at home, right now, the phase that we are in, you should focus a lot on practice, follow all of these techniques so that you are used to them when you go to the exam also. So this was the March June exam. This is what it looked like. And so you have individual company accounts, you have adjustments information, pick up all of these balances, place them in the statement, and follow the technique we have just discussed. Now, this was the requirement. You're given the spreadsheet or Word workspace accordingly. This is the feedback from the latest examiner report that the workings are not clearly presented. You need to present them clearly and show the workings so that it's not left to the wonder of the marker how you have reached the figure. And they said that SFP is always made as at, whereas P&L is for the year. So in SFP, the balances are never apportioned, and in the P&L they are. And once again, a fundamental error is where the students apply. Let's suppose if there is 75% shareholding, they would apply 75% to subsidiary company statement and then do line by line addition. That's a fundamental error. When we do line by line addition, we pick up 100% balance of parent company and 100% balance of subsidiary company and then do a line by line addition. The only exception being if subsidiary was acquired during the year. Now, we come to the last part of the exam, which is a compulsory question related to analysis and interpretation of financial statements. Now, in this case, the step number one always is that you have to calculate the ratios. You should know the formula and you calculate the ratios. The second step is that you move towards the analysis, where you identify the change that is happening from one year to the other or from one company to the other. Okay. And once you have identified in the change, read the question very carefully to identify what is happening in it. Will always be a situation. Will always be some trouble or some change which is happening in the exam, in the question. And based on that, you have to pick up the information and you have to solve your question accordingly. And the last thing over here is that you always have to conclude. In the interpretation questions, there is a separate mark for conclusion. There is one mark in which you have to give maybe a recommendation for the future or tell about what is happening over here. Now, let's see in a little more detail as to what the interpretation and analysis questions steps you need to follow. Now, the step number one, as I said, is the calculate the ratios. In the calculation, something very important. You have to use the figures from the financial statements. You need to show the ratio formula, and for this purpose you don't really need to at times type up the formula. If you can do that, well and good, type up the formula, but very importantly present the numbers which are used in calculation, show the workings. Okay, so the important thing is that you show what is written in the numerator, what is written in the denominator, how did you calculate the figure. If you just write the final ratio after doing the calculation on your calculator and there is even one figure wrong in it, there will be no marks for it. Okay, so make sure that you show the calculations and then you show the comparative ratio also. Then calculate the changes. Now we are coming to the interpretation part. This is the part that the students find relatively easier but just lose out when they don't show the formula. The issue as per examiner reports come when we come to the analysis. Analysis is the worst attempted part of the exam as per the examiner and the feedback of worldwide candidates. So make sure that you attempt this, because attempting this is going to take you at least one step above the remaining students. And then make sure that your analysis is that good that you can gain maximum marks out of it. This is something which is very subjective. So at times, there is a lot of flexibility in the answer. So please never miss out on this part, because A, it is easy to get marks in, and B, if you don't attempt it, then you're getting trying to get at least 50 out of 90, and that is not 50%, or maybe 85 or 88 marks. So getting 50 out of 88, that is much tougher than getting 50 out of 100. So the technique, coming back to it, the technique that we have to follow is that calculate the changes in the figures which are affecting the ratio, do a comparison of the numerator, do a comparison of the denominator also. So identify the changes in both. That is the best way to do your analysis. That gives you leeway to tell how changes are taking place. Link the changes to the ratios. Calculate if you need to calculate any additional ratio for your answer, like if the subsidiary had not been there during the year, this would have been the answer. So, and pick up the information from the scenario. Your exam question is going to be your best friend in your exam. So use the question, and remember, in ACC exam, it's a rule. There is no extra information given. So whatever information is given, each and every word of it, that's going to be relevant to your answer. So pick up the information. So it's like your question is giving you cues that this is something which can affect the company performance. So pick that up and then answer accordingly. Pick up this is in this I'm stating the what I've just discussed. You can distribute your analysis in performance and position sections and mention the increase or decrease which is taking place. But remember, just by writing gross profit has increased by 10%, that's not going to get you marks. Giving the reason for it is going to get you marks, and you have to pick it up from the question. Sales are increasing, sales are decreasing. Always see what the nature of the company is. In one of the past exams, it was a service based company. And the students in the analysis wrote, oh, maybe their inventory cost has increased during the year, which is why gross profit has decreased. So be very careful about what the nature of the company is and then answer accordingly. This last part is very important. Identify the one off items, because if there are one off items, the company has sold something during the year, acquired something during the year, a disaster took place during the year. So these are one off items. Use that in every analysis, because this is something in which you say, oh, this is here in the current year, this was not there in the previous year. This income was there in the current year because we disposed of an asset, but next year it won't be there. So use one off items in your answer, make the working relevant, and lastly, always conclude. The way to conclude is that you tell how the company is performing and then you give a recommendation with respect to way forward also. This is what your question in the latest exam looked like. And if the question is asking you to provide any kind of limitations, please do that, because the in this case the examiner said that the students did not answer the limitation part. There is an and in this question, which shows that there were separate marks available for telling the limitations. Okay, this is the feedback from the examiner report. The examiner has been saying many things again and again, which shows that the students don't bother taking the feedback. So please be very careful. Don't give generic answers. Review the requirements carefully. Use different ratios together and data from the question to give the rationale for the changes in ratios, and address the requirements properly as I've written on the right hand side, and once again use the information from the scenario. This is from two different examiner reports, but I included both to show you that the same feedback has been coming up over and over. So this was with respect to the challenges that are there with respect to specific questions. Very quickly, in 1 minute, I want to show you um, the a past exam paper. We don't have much time, so I just wanted to quickly skim through it with you. Now, over here in the green, this was a final accounts question, single company question. And when the students say, how can we get easy marks? So in the green, I have highlighted the figures that were picked up straight from the trial balance. So you can see these are the figures for which I did not even need to go through the details of the adjustments. And in the yellow are the figures that I picked up from the adjustments, but without any change, straightforward figure from the point and put it over here in the working or the main statement. These are your easy marks. You do them and you are mentally satisfied also that you've grabbed them, and then you go for the detailed workings. Okay, please follow this approach. That is going to increase your marks by it is definitely going to help you a lot in the exams. And over here is an example of workings. So you can see that in the workings, the examiner has mentioned the name of the ratio and shown the workings. This is what is required. Show the workings and then the final ratio. And then always apply it to the scenario. You can see over here in every item, the examiner has made the change relevant to the scenario rather than just saying that a change has happened. And in the end, provide conclusion. Similarly, the same thing over here in the consolidation question. The green one is the figures that I have picked up straight from the individual financial statements, and the yellow ones straight figure picked up from the question and written in the answer. You write these, there are marks, stepwise marks. So just by taking these up and putting these in, that can get you marks. And you can see how the examiner created workings and used all of them in the answer. Same approach with the ratios, showing the workings and making them relevant to the scenario. Okay, so this is a quick peek into the question. Now, the common student challenges that we have seen in advance, which some of which are in your questions. Also, we are quickly coming to the questions. These are the time management, practice on software, syllabus coverage, comprehensive practice, and the fear of exam. And the solutions for them only are that for time management, please do time bound practice. For practice software familiarity, please do practice on ACCA platform while you are at home preparing for the exam. No selective study, anything can come up from anywhere in the exam. Practice with ACCA resources, use the techniques, own figure rule is there. And for the fear of exam, you do all of the above and do a lot of practice, because that is the only way to handle the fear of the exam. Now, we have some frequently asked questions from the students. Some of them are there in the chat box also. I'm going to cover the frequently asked questions first, and then we are going to move to the live chat questions also. The number one thing is, can abbreviations be used in the exam? The answer to this is that commonly used abbreviations like property, plant and equipment, PPE, NCI, this is something that you can use. But other than that, please don't use abbreviations. Something that you use in your class or your teacher uses, that is something which may not be familiar with the marker. So that is something not recommended. Another one was, how can I practice CR questions in section C? I have shared all the techniques. You have the ACCA practice platform with past exam papers available. Do practice over there, and that is going to give you a lot of confidence. Then, is there negative marking in the exam? The answer is no. There is no negative marking. So make sure you attempt the whole exam, even if you have to take a chance. So if there are four options available and you have to take a chance and choose one, and you have absolutely no idea about the answer, there's still a probability that you're going to pass the exam. So there are steps available, no negative marking. Please use that. What is the meaning of own figure rule? The own figure rule means that you are penalized only once for any error that you make. So let's suppose you had to calculate the value of property, in which you had to add the decommissioning provision. So you wrote the purchase cost and the decommissioning provision you got wrong. Okay, now that property, you charged depreciation on it, you charged impairment on it, you did revaluation of it, and all of that you did correctly. So the examiner says that you are going to be penalized only for not having the correct figure of provision. Remaining working we are going to consider the figure you have calculated is correct, and we are going to check the remaining question accordingly. That's own figure rule. So even if you are confused about your answer of one step, don't worry. Use that figure later on. The examiner is going to give you marks for it. That is your own figure rule. Can statement of cash flows be tested in interpretation or single entity accounts? Absolutely yes. Um, um, uh, you can say an extract can be tested, but an extract can be operating activities, investing activities, or financing activities. So while preparing, you should prepare the whole statement. Let me take a quick sip of water. Okay. And then the next very frequently asked question is that how should time be managed across sections? As I said, ideally, it is 1.8 minutes per mark, but in my experience, if you try, your section A and section B are a mix of theory and calculation based questions. So theory questions are very straightforward, but unfortunately recently also we had a tutor conference, and the examiner was saying that the students are unable to score marks in the theory questions in section A and B, which means that they do not prepare conceptually. So please focus on that. If you have done that, you save time. And based on that, my recommendation would then be section A 45 marks, section B 45 marks, and then section C 45 marks each. But if you have prepared well with respect to format, don't worry, give proper time, 1.8 minute per mark, and you can divide it between the sections. Okay, so these were the frequently asked questions that we received beforehand. Now, coming to the live questions that are there, I have quite a few questions. I'm going to start with the first question which was asked. Um, okay, sorry, I can see it in the. Richa, I can see questions from 37 onwards only. I'm not sure um, what's the issue. I'll start answering the ones that I have received.
Yeah, yeah, sure, no
There-
problem. Yes, but because we are keep on sending the questions on your inbox, so you
Okay,
can scroll
okay.
it up. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, done. So, first question over here was that theory questions from section C come from which chapter? In section C, normally the theory is related to interpretation, and related to that, you can have questions on the limitations, etc. In the final accounts or consolidation, if the theory comes up, then it's normally either related to non-financial reporting, which is a very important part of your syllabus, like the sustainability reporting. As you know, S1 is included in your syllabus. So narrative reporting part can come up, or otherwise, mostly it is related to either the earnings per share or topics like that. Okay.
Alina, if I can just interrupt in between, can you please look
Sure.
into the inbox in your folder once?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I understand now the issue. Okay,
Thanks.
okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So the first question we had another question we had was from Melissa. If upon consolidation we remove all intra-group balances, why do we include deferred consideration to be paid from parent to subsidiary? Wonderful question, Melissa. Always remember, when parent acquires shares in a subsidiary, the payment is made not to the subsidiary company, but to the shareholders of the subsidiary company. Okay, so the consideration which is paid, whether it is share for share exchange, or it is the deferred consideration, contingent consideration, all of that is paid to the owners or the shareholders of the subsidiary company, and owners are separate from the business. So which is why the payment that we make, the deferred consideration or any payment that goes to owners, that is shown separately in our investments in the parent company and then used in goodwill. Intra-group balances, when the company is dealing with the company. So parent sold something to subsidiary company sold something to the parent company. So which is why we do intra-group adjustments of only company to company transactions, and not because you remember the very first thing that we studied in accounting was that there is a separate entity concept, that owners are separate from the business. That is applicable over here, that the payment is made to the owners. Do we need to remember all of the names and numbers of these standards? You don't need to remember the names. it is better that you remember the numbers, the standard. But main thing is that you should know the accounting treatment, because normally in our interpretation questions and the questions that we have to do comprehensively, in them at any point in time we don't need to quote the standards. In interpretation, it is, the situation which is happening. In final accounts also, we are not required to write the numbers, but main thing is that when a treatment comes in, you should know which standard it deals with and what the standard said about it. That is more important at FR level. In section C questions, own figure rule. Anand, I hope I have already answered your question. Then if I make a mistake in calculating profit in answer A and then use it, yes, I have covered it for you that yes, if you made an error in one step and then you use that wrong figure later on, the examiner is only going to penalize you for the first one. Going forward, the marker is going to assume that what you calculated was correct and give you marks accordingly. Are working notes compulsory for Section C? Yes, absolutely, Tia. I have just covered it. The examiner has said it repeatedly that show your calculations. Even if you are adding, 10 plus 20, show it to the marker so that you get marks for it. So it's very important that you show all the calculations. Then, what about rounding? Sometimes we have difficult result when we are rounding during calculations. It is different per $1, but it is not a mistake, only issue of roundings. Anita, in this, always remember that in your OTs, because in the OTs, you have to input the answer and it's not subjective. So in case of OTs, the examiner gives you the rounding. So they would say rounded off to nearest thousand. Another thing is that at times, if there is a question in which during the question there is any kind of rounding to be done, the examiner says that on the back end they put up more than one answer, so whatever you write in, that is going to be correct. But in most of the cases, the examiner avoids this and tells you the rounding level that needs to be done. And when you come to the Section C questions, in that you can do the rounding. Normally it is in dollar thousands or dollar millions as per the question. Just follow that and that is going to be good for you. Okay. Dave has asked, ma'am, will disposal come in analysis? Absolutely. It is very frequently tested. And thank you, Dave, for actually reminding me to share this also. That in the recent examiner conference, also, the FR examiner said that disposal is very, one of the worst attempted areas. So, IFRS 5, please cover it properly. It is very important. The examiner has recently said the students do not do well in it, so normally that increases the possibility of it being tested in the upcoming attempts. That increases the possibility. So yes, please focus on IFRS 5 and cover the discontinued operations and analysis. And very frequently it is tested in the analysis part because that is the one-off change that happens during the year. Shivam has asked, can cash flow be tested? I think I've already covered this. Another one is it okay to start by making workings of all adjustments before the financial statements and then show the workings? Um, uh, Kelibo Heil, I hope I'm taking the name correctly. You can do it, but it's not a very professional way of presentation and it's a computer based exam. So maybe you can do the workings if you're comfortable with that and cut and paste it. But I would say make the format, scroll down, do your workings just the way you are comfortable with, and then put back the answers because that's more comfortable. So you can do the workings underneath the question or beside the question. So whatever way is comfortable with you, do that. Presenting workings first, it doesn't give a very professional image. And honestly, something it should not make a difference. Abbreviations, Harshit, I've already answered your question. How to tackle ratio questions, single versus group or disposal, how we use our words or commentary. Abdullah, I think I've covered this in my presentation. Please go through it again if you have any confusion in the recording. Amar has asked, do you need to write gross profit divided by revenue and then fall? Yes. Amar, in this case, it's not a compulsion. If you're comfortable with it, you can give the formula, but the main thing is that you should provide the working. So if gross profit is 50, revenue is 300, that you should provide. Otherwise, writing the formula of ratio, that's not a compulsion. I just showed you the standard solution. Even the examiner has not written it. Writing it helps in case you do put in a wrong figure, but you can save time and just provide the calculation. Harshita has asked, in single entity or consolidation, should we show the calculations first or the statement? Consolidation. Always I would say the statement first. Then Abdullah Khan has asked, in the analysis of ratios, can we assume why a change might have occurred in ratios if we can't really find? No, Abdullah, it doesn't get you marks. Generic comments, the examiner says you're not going to get marks for them. So please identify, prepare in advance what can be possible changes, and then pick it up from the question that what can possibly impact this particular figure. Jamie has asked, what about abbreviations? We have abbreviations like SFP, SPL. That is fine. That is acceptable. Harshit has asked, are workings needed to be detailed, or like the correction of errors can be done through rectified journal entry? Harshit, it's better to provide the details. That is preferred. And Richa has come back with video on. That's a cue for me to stop. Richa, do we have time for completing the questions? There are a few more, I think three, four more.
If you want, you can just pick one or two more, maybe, because it's already
Okay,
time to
okay.
close the session.
General assumptions I've already answered. Shoaib has asked about IFRS. IFRS S1 is in your syllabus. Please cover that and fill in the blanks. Last question. So, how do we fill in the blank for zero values when practicing? If you get errors for no fill in the blank, when no adjustment was needed. Maria, I'm sorry I did not get your question, but if the answer is, I'm assuming you're answering saying that if it is zero, just put in a zero. And if they're asking you for a rounding, then do the rounding accordingly. They're asking you to give the answer in dollar thousands, then you round it off to nearest thousands. Yes, Richa, we're done. We're covered. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Alina. I think we had too many questions coming in, and we tried our best to answer some of them directly and to get many of them answered by you. And you have quite picked all of them. And I was so happy to see that, yes, you were able to pick some of the questions in the beginning itself on your slides only. So we yes do get those kind of common questions from the students, like own figure rule and all. So that was really great. So with this, now we come to an end, but before you leave the session, I will request all of the students to please uh, do this poll for us. And it's a very easy poll for you all. um, and it's okay even if you don't know the correct date. So just let me know when the mocks for pre-June 2025 session are being released, and what are the dates of the debrief when they are going to be released. So there are quite a few options for you. You have just to click on the right one, or the one which you feel the nearest. I am getting answers, but I will like some more answers right now. That will be really great. Few more. So with the countdown of five, four, three, two, and one, let me go to the answers. Yeah. So I can see 20% of the students are mentioning as 11th May and 16th May, and 34.2 have mentioned as 9th May and 16th May. So I am not extending this too much. I would like to just tell you that yes, 9th May and 16th May are the right dates. So the mocks are already released on CB Practice platform. The links are available in your resource section, and the debriefs are going to get released this Friday on 16th May on ACCA Student Support YouTube channel. The link is again in your resource section. So please do pick all the links for yourself so that you can refer them while you are doing exam preparations for June 2025 session. With this, we come to an end, and I will like to remind you all about these three important resources, or three important destinations which can help you prepare for your exam in a better way. So one is CV Practice platform, where you get all the past exams, practice exams, and as well as mock exams for before each of your exam session. Then there is ACCA Student Resources YouTube channel. So there you will get all the exam playlists with all the webinar recordings, topic explainers, and several and many more things which you will really want to consider while you are doing your exam preparations. And the last not the least is ACCA Study Hub. So this is the wealth of all the exam resources for yourself. Just go through all of them, and all the best for your exam. Don't forget that whosoever has registered for this webinar will be getting the recording link of the session, and you can watch its recording in case you have missed anything, in case you want to repeat anything for yourself. So finally, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Alina, for extending your support to us. And also thank you very much to the team who have supported us at the back end to deliver this session successfully. All the best for
Thank you.
your two exams.
Thank you so much. I hope you found this session useful and best of luck.
Thank you.